Hey, good morning. We are live with eCarrier Check Studio. I'm excited today. We've got a special guest on. Charles Mundy is going to bring it home here today for us and drive the paint. But before we get into Charles and start talking about him, I want to talk about our week. I want to talk about what you learned this week, Nate, how your week was, who you impacted, who impacted you. Break it down, man. Let's hear how your week was.
Great week. We talked about how the week was. It was a great week, definitely. And great topic today. We're talking about freight dispatchers and having some tips. I know Charles is going to add a great amount of tips here, so I'm glad everyone who's here. Thank you. But yeah, impact. As far as impacting, our subscribers here, right?
Absolutely.
There's nothing like it. Our community is great. They impact me every day, honestly. Whether it's something that's I could do a little bit better to help them, which is fine. I always like to know that. And then stuff on their end that where I could help them. Yeah, it was a really good week. We talked a lot about dispatching. Trying to find shippers, but really, what comes to mind is dispatching, trying to find carriers. It seems to be a struggle, and gotcha. So it seems to be a struggle, which kind of happens. But hopefully with today's YouTube channel, we can all gain some tools or some ideas.
Yeah, absolutely. A couple things that I'm excited to continue to talk about really is, sound is going in and out. Kimberly says, maybe turn us up a little there or something. How about now? You might keep us posted on this.
Yeah.
Something that we're working on, obviously, besides sound, is we're really impacting a local community, a local foundation that gives back to women and their families that are struggling with breast cancer. I got my pink shirt on, just so that everybody knows and is aware of that. Every single subscription is actually donating back to that. We'll be giving a part of our subscriptions back to that this month, and I'm super jacked about it just because we get to help some families. So we're talking about that. Charles, you've always been big at giving back, big at helping others. I honestly look at you, Charles, really as the bridge that takes people from not being able to understand this industry to the highway, to a road, to anywhere, just a better path. I'm a big believer that you're the bridge in our industry. Charles, how you doing today, man? I'm glad you're on.
I appreciate it. Thank you. I'm doing well. Got a little bit of congestion, but I'm working through that. So, but thanks for those kind words. I appreciate that. Yeah. I like to think that I'm a bridge, but hopefully, I will continue to provide that service for everyone. And you spoke of the breast cancer awareness month that you guys are doing. If you don't mind, I can offer a pledge from Exodus to you guys for that. You guys accept pledges and donations. So
we do, yeah.
Just get with me after the recording. I can pledge I'll pledge $500 to you guys for breast cancer awareness.
That's awesome.
So that's on the recording, right? So I can't back out of it, right? So I got get back out. So
we're getting real this morning. We're getting real. It's not even 5 minutes in, Charles. Thank you. That is so big. And honestly, anybody watching this, if you want to help us continue to support us, we have ways to take that money, and then at the end of this month, we'll put it all together, present a check. We have a big check presenting here at the office, and we're excited just to make an impact on somebody that's needing it more than I am. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Right.
And so I'm super jacked about that. Charles, I really want to dive into this dispatching and kind of just make an impact on some people that need some help right now. Let's be honest. Dispatching there's not a magic wand. There's you've got to fight for what you want. You've got to be able to learn. You've got to be able to listen. You've got to build some traction. It's not an easy thing. So I want to give some tips today. We're talking about how to make a dispatcher, how to make a living, how to make it a go. And so I want to hear from you, Charles, on what can they be doing to get started, and how can they make those turns, those tractions that they get some trucks to start to work with them.
Okay, great point. So we had a discussion earlier, and we came up with and I'm going to go high level with this, right? As far as
absolutely
like five tips 5 tips for independent freight dispatchers after you start your company, after you get a carrier, and even after learning the mechanics and the workflow of how you dispatch or find freight or find loads for your carriers. So tip number 1 is communicate. If you can't communicate with between you and that carrier, and you guys are missing each other as far as understanding what that load entails, the details of the load, whether or not your carrier is under a load or not before you book their next load, then there's going to be a cross hairs issue with that. You're gonna miss the boat. He's going to be under load. You're going to get him a load, and he's going to be like, "Well, I haven't delivered. I got to deliver this load on Tuesday, and you got me a load for Monday from Friday." Right. So there's an issue there. So always, number 1 is communicate. Right. You want to be able to have that open channel between you and the person that you are providing a service to help them grow their livelihood and feed their family. So you want to, and ultimately you're feeding your family as a dispatcher, because when they make money, you make money. Right. So you always want to be able to have that open line of communication.
Yeah.
Independent dispatchers are, we have some great ones in our trainings who are doing very well at this point. And one of the reasons is because, and we're not even talking about the technical aspect of dispatching, the book aspect of dispatching, all the terms and understanding what they are. We're talking about, these tips are going to be more commonsensical things, right? After you get all the info in your head, these are the commonsensical stuff. And number 1 is communicating. So
Yeah.
I'll say each tip, speak about it a little bit, and then if you guys want to add on to that, that'll be fine.
Yeah. I think that's funny you say this. This is definitely number 1. And it doesn't matter, it doesn't matter where you're at in your journey, whether you have trucks, whether you don't have trucks, you have got to get better at communicating and the communication style that you want. Let's be honest. There's a lot of different kind of communication styles that you can get into, but you want an empathetic, curiosity-based communication style. You need to understand what those people are dealing with. You need to understand their shoes, and you always need to be asking questions. You got to be curious. You got to stay curious, because if you're not curious, you're not asking the right questions. And let's be honest, the questions that you're asking are going to be at the level of the standard that you're at, right? If your questions are terrible, we got to get to a point where we're asking better, more curious questions about their business, about how much their costs are. And that same thing goes with measuring communication. I got to tell you something that really was interesting, Charles. And I want to see if this is similar to, something that you saw. LaDonna, what's up? It's good to see you. I'm glad you're on. Let us know how our sound is, by the way. I know we started off a little bit different, but I think maybe we've got it better. But Charles, something that that I always did when I was dispatching was I always kept track of the states of the carriers that I was calling. And the reason why, and I'm curious if you're similar to this or understand this, is I communicated better with people that were similar in geographic areas. I struggled with communicating to people from Boston, New York, Pennsylvania. I can talk to anybody from Ohio. You know what I mean? I can talk to anybody from Alabama, but I struggled in certain parts of the country because we didn't maybe sound the same. Or maybe
it's a cultural thing. It's a language gap, so to speak.
Yeah.
You have people down south that speak a certain way than people in the north, right?
Yeah,
or in the Midwest. I lived in Ohio for a while. I lived in Dayton, Columbus, Springfield area. So people talk differently in different areas, right? So
yeah,
it's a language thing. But once you get the message across in whatever language that person is from, and they understand it, now you guys are starting to bridge that communication gap. Whether the verbiage or the lingo may be different, right? But the universal message is the same as far as you telling the carrier how you want them to run this load, and they're telling you what they want from you to get this load for. So communication is key.
Yeah. Charles, I'm kind of curious too on communication, for just a quick factor. How important is it to communicate with them in the way they want to be communicated with, specifically to email, text, phone? How important is that to come to them at the communication level that they want?
That's a great question. So with our trainings, we have, when you first get a truck driver, a carrier, and owner operator under what's called a dispatcher agreement, we have a document in there. It's our dispatcher packet. It contains the dispatcher agreement, the limited power of attorney, and what's called a carrier profile. In the carrier profile, you itemize certain things, or the carrier gives you their requirements. Also, in the requirements for how they want their loads, how much they want to get paid, how much weight they want to haul, things of that nature, right? Also, in there are ways that the carriers want to communicate with you, like you said, email, phone, text, smoke signals, pigeon, however, right? So, but it's explained and it's written down. So now most carriers, they'll say, well, text me or call me, and then first primarily, and then email if you can't get a hold of me. So at some point, one of those modes of communications will be reached. So on the carrier profile and this is the document and for our dispatchers that they use to find the freight and the loads for the carrier's profile, because this document, the carrier literally filled out and told the dispatcher, this is how I want my loads. These are my requirements, right? So.
Yeah, I love that. Well, I appreciate you clarifying that, because I think that's really important. People understand, how important it is to get, working with them wherever they want to go. You know what I mean?
Correct.
So
correct.
And on top of that too, like it's chaos, right? This industry can be chaos. So I think if you can learn to manage that chaos, of where and when your truck drivers need to be, honestly, that just adds value. And
absolutely, absolutely.
Right. Now, tip number 2 is because we're in an industry that's the complete opposite of what this tip's going to be. It's kind of a challenge for dispatchers. So tip number 2 is honesty. So we're in an industry that's very volatile, and you're dealing with, in some cases, dishonest people, like whether it's the freight broker trying to get as much money for themselves as opposed to giving it to the carrier, whether it's the carrier not giving all the information honestly to the dispatcher so that they can effectively find and book freight for them. Honesty. So, but as a dispatcher, you can only control you, right? And how honest you are in conveying details of a specific load to the carrier, or how honest you are when you're speaking to the broker and trying to get the best rates for your carrier. So you can only be honest in that regard as a dispatcher, as well as how you're going to charge for your service for dispatching to the carrier. You want to be honest in that, because truck drivers, owner operators, carriers, they pick up on those things, right? If you're trying to be cheap with them, right? So then it won't be a good relationship. So I always tell my dispatchers, or I advise them, never step over dimes to chase pennies, right? Never step over dimes to chase pennies. You want to be, all that extra money that you're getting out of the loads, charge what you charge, whether it's a flat fee or a percentage per load. The difference goes to the carrier, because they're the ones out here on the road taking the risk with their lives, transporting these goods from the shippers to the receivers. They're the ones who are away from their families, things of that nature. So be honest with them, right? And you will go further with an honest relationship. I can guarantee this. You will go further with an honest relationship with the carrier and or broker than you would the other way, and dishonest. Okay, 100%. So honesty is always good.
Yeah. I boy, I tell you what, I'd sure rather receive bad news than no news. You know what I mean? And you just get to a point where, give it to me straight, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent. I just need to know it so that we can figure out how to work through it, right? And so I love where you're going with that. Honestly, that should be your mantra in general, is being honest and being upfront with everybody, and having those conversations. Hard conversations happen, So,
yeah,
I love that.
Okay, so the third tip kind of goes with honesty, and that's integrity, right? Now this relates to, because you have to be have to have some level of integrity as a business owner. Remember, you are a business owner. You are talking to other business owners. So the more integrity you have, so you are a dispatching company, independent, you have your own LLC, EIN, however you structured your company. You are representing, like if I was out there, ELLC. So I have to behave with some level of integrity because my reputation is on the line. So the way I come across and the way I communicate, it has to be some integrity in there and consistency as well. So when the independent dispatchers are dealing with the brokers, there's a level of integrity there because they're representing when they're dealing with brokers. Most brokers don't know that the dispatchers are independent dispatching companies. Some do, but most of them don't. They see them as representatives of the truck drivers that they're calling for to get those loads, right? But when you're dealing with the truck drivers, the owner operators, the carriers, they know that who you are because when you spoke to them, whether you cold called them, whether you saw them at a truck stop, you said, "Hey, I am such and such Jane Doe or John Doe with ABC dispatching services or XYZ logistics or whatever you called yourself." And you have all the visual representation of integrity. Now you have to have the more behind the scenes integrity by performing what you say that you can do, what you say you can do, right? So integrity is also key. It falls in line with honesty, but integrity will fall behind. It's like the cousin of it, I guess.
Yeah, you definitely have to have a layer there. I mean, it's so important. We're dealing with thousands of dollars. We're dealing with people's lives. We're dealing with. It's insane to me. I remember the first month I started freight brokering, and I think I billed out like $120,000, and you're just sitting there going, "Woo!" Thank God I was, I had a good integrity. Thank God I was honest. Thank God I understood the importance of hiring a safe carrier so that they didn't go kill a family. There's a lot going on with that, and I totally am into that, Charles. I love the integrity part. That's a big deal because you're having a lot of conversations that happen, and boy, if there's not trust, there's not integrity, we're gonna have some issues.
Right, there's some issues. So that's number 3. Number 4 is, and this is kind of big for dispatchers because I see a lot of dispatchers lose it a lot, and that's patience. Right, you have to be patient, especially when you're first starting your company. Right, you start your company, you may not have a much startup capital, you may not have a line of credit, things of that nature, and then the next to get your business started, and then the next thing you want to have patience with is finding truck drivers. That's the biggest, one of the first obstacles because not a lot of especially experienced carriers, owner operators, truck drivers want to give you a chance, right? You just started your company, you have no experience, right? I was going to say book a business, but that applies to the brokers. But you have no experience. You've never booked a load with a freight broker for a carrier. So if I'm a carrier, I'm going to be the guinea pig apparently to give you that shot. Now you may have spoke to me in a way that convinced me to say, okay, yeah, I'll give you that shot. But you have to be patient because you're going to get a lot of no's before you get that first yes, right? And that's true in the whole ecosystem of the world of sales. In sales, you get a lot of no's, and Jared, you know this. You get a lot of no's before you get a yes. When you're making those cold calls, when you're doing, you go if you're working at a call center and you log into your queue, into your account, and you pick a case to call on, no, click, right? And then at some point, each no is a stepping stone to the progression of that yes, because every no you're going to get some experience from, and then when you call that next call, you're going to be better than the previous call, right? Because you've learned from that experience. So you have to exercise patience, right? When you're dealing, especially independent freight dispatchers, when you are dealing with the truck drivers, you have to realize these are human beings. They have different personalities. You have to have thick skin in this industry. You're in the transportation industry, but you have to have some thick skin. If you come in here with, if you are an introvert and you're very emotional, you're in the wrong business. I'll be honest with you. You could try, but I guarantee you somebody's going to make you cry or something, right? So you have to be patient. If you're not ready for that, then I would suggest maybe something else. But patience is very big in this industry. First with the carrier and then with brokers. You got to be patient with them because they're always trying to get the best deal. And from a business perspective, it's genius. They're always getting the best deal for themselves. Why, as a broker, why would I give you money as opposed, right? So you have to be patient in that as well. Right? You have to understand. You have to understand the dynamics of business and how it works. You have to put yourself in the other party's shoes. To fully understand their perspective. Right? You just can't. Before you judge someone, you have to walk in their shoes. So patience is a lot of is very involved in that. You have to be very, very patient. Okay.
I think on top of patience too, Charles, because I just had a Q&A with our community on Wednesday, and we talked about having patience, but also being consistent. You know, they're grinding off throughout the week. I get it. They're not getting anyone to pick up. They're getting the no's, like you're saying. You know, my advice to them was, you know, stay patient like yourself, like you said, but don't give up. You know, your next call could definitely be that one. Yeah.
It's right. So yeah. So and that's So and then the fifth one is perseverance. So patience and perseverance go hand in hand. But when you persevere, you're in it. Perseverance says that you're in it for the long haul. That this is something you really want to do. You have the patience for it. So now you just have to persevere and just go through the process. Right? You have to persevere and steady the race. Persevere and just work through the process. Because at some point, someone's going to give you an opportunity. There's a saying, right? Success is where preparation and opportunity meet.
Yeah.
Right? So if you persevere through that, if you're prepared and the opportunity comes, then you have a greater chance of being successful. Perseverance is part of that equation. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
So those are the 5 tips: communicate, honesty, integrity, patience, and perseverance. And the reason I say it's high level because it's universal. It not only can apply to freight dispatchers, this can apply in life.
Yeah.
Right? So, but those are the 5 tips that I have.
I love that, Charles. I think you hit it on the head. I think, you know, something that really hit home for me when I first started in the sales world, you know, I was an LTL outside salesman.
Wow.
You know, and that was crazy. I'm going door to door, you know, and I got to tell you something. It was so interesting. And one of my first calls I walked into, it was an irrigation company. Well, this is what it said on the sign. And this is when I had a BlackBerry, by the way, not to date myself, but I'll date myself a little. So I got a BlackBerry. They don't have a website, right? I just see a bunch of pipe out back and old Dorothy standing in the front door here. And so I walk in and I say, Dorothy, you know, I'd like to just talk to somebody about your freight. And she goes, son, do you know what I do here? And I'm like, well, you're maybe an irrigation place. You got to think, I literally have been in the business for like 7 days. and I said, well, I'd love to hear. I'd love to understand what it is that you do. And maybe there's a good fit. We can help you. Right. And she goes, we just give water to farmers. I don't ship anything. We have pipe out back because we have to get this. And, you know, that day I remember sitting around going, man, I need to, you know, not only do I need to educate myself, but I really need to make sure that I'm staying patient with the process because, you know, at the end of the day, the more doors I went and knocked on, the more success I found, the harder I worked, the luckier I got. And boy, I tell you what I did figure out, and this was, like you said, you have to have thick skin, you have to have patience, is about 3 months into me going door to door as an LTL salesman and getting rejected a lot, by the way. Mm-hmm. Nobody wanted to talk to a small regional carrier that only went from Chicago to Denver. Everybody wants FedEx. You go to Florida? No, I don't. But okay, well, thanks for coming, right? So it was one of those things where I needed to find a way to refill my cup. I needed to find a way to refill my positivity and my patience because your patience can wear thin. So how do you thicken that patience, right? And I tell you what, once I understood how to refill my cup, when to take breaks, when to feed my mind, when to go work out, when to kind of understand how to refill that cup, boy, I tell you what, it really started to get traction because I was like, okay, my patience is thin. Let's go thicken it up. Let's go find another way, another wear spot where I can sit there and go to town on patience. And even that's with you, Charles. You run an incredible business. What an incredible platform for brokers, dispatchers to get on and learn and develop themselves. But how long did that patience take for you?
Whoo! Thank you, wife. Thanks to my wife.
Yeah.
But yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because you know why? Because you deal with a lot of different personalities, and if you don't have thick skins, you have a tendency to allow something outside of yourself affect your inner self, who you are, right? And when that happens, you have to take a self inventory and decide, okay, is this something I really want to do? So there's a saying: if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life, right? So I'm at the point now where I love what I do. I love sharing the knowledge that God has given me to people in such a way that it changes their lives, right?
Yeah.
Whether it changes it emotionally, physically, financially, all those different areas. So I love what I do now. So I'm not working. This is fun for me, right? So because I'm helping others. Now the money is fine, and that just feeds the family and keeps me okay. But if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. But yeah, the platform, the initial part of it, when you first start off, you have that worry, you have that fear that it won't be successful. But if you just say, hey, this is something I wanted to do. I love teaching. I love instructing. So just go for it, and just remove the fear factor away and just take the chance. Just jump, right? So that's where I'm at
That,
now. But in the beginning, it wasn't the case. It was not the case. It
yeah.
took me a while. It took me a good 6 months to get comfortable, even getting in front of the camera. Before this, I was stuttering and flixing up words and everything like that. But now, once you can recognize a good instructor, and I'm not trying to toot my horn, but you can recognize any good, not just me, but any good instructor by if they can just roll off the tongue and tell you everything that they know, and you guys can research and back it up that is true, right? I'm not looking at paper or anything. All this is coming from the head.
Right.
There are no notes or anything like that. So, and now I'm at a place now where I'm willing to take that and give it to you, right? So that's what it's all about. But it wasn't like that in the beginning. So
it definitely takes, it. You said something that I just want to key in on is you said, "Oh, my wife."
Oh yeah, the support system.
Yeah.
Support system. So yeah,
Go
you
into
gotta
that.
have the reason I said my wife, because she's my support system. So whoever your support system is, it just so happens to be my wife. She's in my corner. So behind every good man is a great woman.
Oh yeah.
Right? I'm just good. She's great because she makes me who I am. Right.
Yeah.
So whoever you call your support system, it can be your spouse, it can be a partner. You and Jared, you guys bounce back and forth with each other. So whoever that person is that keeps you motivated in times where you get down and you want to give up. You see what I'm saying? So and you need that. No one can do anything in this world alone. You're gonna always need somebody.
Here's a thing, Charles. I go through, like, I don't want to say stocky, but I love to look at your social media platform because it's very powerful. And I look at our comments, and we're really helping people by putting out that content. I seen a comment on your Facebook yesterday, and it's the lady said, you helped me, not give up. So that tells me you're a good trainer, you're a good person, and you really are there to help those other people. So I really appreciate that, and you're definitely impacting people. That's for sure.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah. I just love giving back. I love, for me, doing it. I'm selfish because I love the feeling I get by doing that. So that's what I mean by me. It's selfish for me because I like that feeling that I get by helping others.
Yeah.
That's a selfish feeling in my perspective. But even though everybody else has benefited from it, I feel it because it's selfish for me. But that's the only time I'll call myself selfish. But when I'm helping others, because the feeling that I get from doing that.
Yeah.
I think something that, Charles, that I think that's really interesting, or that I like when we're talking, is just your calmness. This industry is so reactive. Yeah. It's so, a lot of people and a lot of carriers,
and it doesn't need to be. It doesn't need to be.
Exactly.
Totally unnecessary. We can name a few people who's real hyper. One is over in Indiana somewhere. We know who we're talking about, right? So, but it's totally unnecessary. Why all the potential to raise your blood pressure, your stress levels? You're in an industry. See, before I came on the scene, this industry was here, and it's going to be here after I leave. Why will I add that type of energy? That rah? it's totally unnecessary. I want to keep the attention of my audience in a place where they can actually learn. I don't want to scare them by yelling and screaming, all these other antics. I have no time for that. Plus, I'm 52 years old. I literally I can't. I don't. But if that works for you, that's great. But I find it totally unnecessary. My job is to hone in on what your weaknesses are. You've chosen either dispatching one-on-one training for beginners, or you've chosen freight broker one-on-one for beginners. And coming soon, you're going to choose trucking one-on-one training for beginners with under the Exodus Logistics Learning Center platform. So once I discover which of those trainings you've chosen, I need to hone in on what your weaknesses are in that, and then focus on making your weaknesses the strengths. I don't need to focus on your strengths because they're already strengths. I'm wasting my time. I want to focus on your weaknesses and get them up balanced to your strengths. You see, that's my job as an instructor.
Yeah. So you gave us a little peek behind the scenes there, Charles. Obviously, Trucking 101's coming out.
It is.
Can you give us a little kind of what's that look like, and maybe even a peek? I'm excited. I love your business. I love what you do. Can you give us a little peek behind the scenes here?
Well, Trucking 101 is just teaching the individuals of the basics of starting a trucking company, from finding a truck, getting insurance for it. I mean, anyone can go on YouTube and get the information about it, but for someone to literally hold your hand through the process, right? Like literally. And a lot of people say they hold their hand, but they don't. And I don't want to call any names out because that's not my place. But when I go in, if for those of you who know who I am, when I go in my trainings, I am very thorough about what I do as far as breaking things down, right? Freight broker, breaking things down with the dispatching side. So the same thing will apply with Trucking 101. If you apply for your operating authority with the FMCSA, we're going to go through line by line, filling out that OP1 form, deciding which type of operating authority you're going to apply for as an owner operator, not as a freight broker, because on the OP1 form, it's two types of operating authorities. There's a broker authority and there's a carrier, a property carrier authority. So, and then under the carrier side, you got 4 options. So what are those options? What do they mean? Which one do I want? How do I know which one to choose? Okay, well, let's discuss this, right? Before you make the wrong decision and have to circle back and pay another $300, let me save you this money and explain it to you, which ones, what they are, so you can decide, have an informed decision, and make the right choice of which one you want to choose. So Trucking 101, the type of truck to pick, the motor, the transmission, how many miles, where to get it from, whether it's from an auction, whether it's from, and I'm going to have a team of experts that know more than me, from former carrier, and one of the team members who I hope she's here still, LaDonna, she's going to be involved in that compliance. LaDonna is the angel of LaDonna is the Exodus Logistics Learning Center's angel. That's LaDonna. Because she does all the moderating. So let me give the individuals who help me their flowers while they're alive. And I see another person on here, Thugsy Mac. That's Mike. He's a freight broker, Exquisite Logistics. So I like to give credit where credit is due. I like to give you your flowers while you're alive, right? But Trucking 101, yeah, it is coming. It's going to either be in the middle of next year or later in the year, or maybe 24. Right now, we're focusing on Exodus University. So which is I'm putting together the university field where current and former students who have expertise in other things, but yet still transportation related, can be listed on my website, offering services to help scale those individuals' companies, either from a freight broker side or from a dispatcher side. So there's a lot going on. We just got to put everything together, piece everything together. But it's big things are coming in 23 as well as 24.
I love that, Charles. Awesome. I love that you continue to find new ways to innovate. I love that you're out there trying to help with that. Funny story. I remember intermodal. I'm sorry to interrupt. Intermodal, customs brokering, international freight, warehousing and distribution, cross-dock transloading. All of these things are coming downstream. A lot of people do it, but I want to get more detailed in it. I'm actually in the process of looking at commercial properties. Nice.
I'm looking at commercial properties for a square footage for like 50,000 square foot for warehousing. I'm looking at commercial properties for about a 20,000 square foot or 10 to 15,000 square foot facility for a logistics learning center, a physical building where individuals can physically come to see me and we do trainings live in person. So these things are coming downstream. working with the banks, working with the real commercial realtors, and all these other things. So,
And will you do that right there in Richmond, Charles?
well, in the Norfolk, Virginia area, in the Hampton
Okay.
Roads area, we call it the Seven Cities: Hampton Roads, Norfolk, Portsmouth, Virginia Beach, Chesapeake, Suffolk, Newport News. So those areas, because those there are huge. We're one of the largest military installations over here, and one of the largest ports, Port of Virginia.
Yeah.
On the East Coast. So yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that, Charles. I love that you are just becoming an all-encompassing sort of powerhouse. Obviously, Charles, you're the face. You're there, right there. How many people support you? You mentioned several different people just now, but how do you kind of keep finding those people to help you support yourself?
Well, what I do is I like to give individuals who've joined my platform and who have excelled at what they do in the platform opportunities to continue to stay in the platform to provide value for the platform. So we got a host of students: Trevay, LaDonna, Mike. Mike is on here. There's plenty of Sky. Well, her name's Michelle. There's Chasa. This I can name. The list goes on and on. But my goal is to train, instruct, and then give those trainees an opportunity to excel themselves, and then let me step back and see the benefits of that and reap that. See how they're doing. So that's my goal. So
I love that,
and that's what you guys do too.
Yeah.
So I don't want to talk about me all day. That's what you guys do too. E-Carrier Check. That's why I love E-Carrier Check. You guys provide a service. You guys are a match.com, right? You provide the ability to get the trucking companies, the carriers, and you provide the ability to get the shippers, the customers, right? And you fuse that together, and you have so much data that you've pulled from other resources, right? And that you put together, and you make it so user-friendly, and you have services that you offer weekly, instructing people on how to navigate that, right? So their user experience is the best that they've ever had. So if you are on this listening channel right now, and if you're listening to it in the future, and you are trying to get into this space, into this industry, E-Carrier Check. You can either come through their website directly. If you're in my portal, we have a link there to join it. But it is a resource. If you are planning on being in this industry long term, I highly, highly, highly recommend at least considering looking into E-Carrier Check as a source for your company, whether you are a freight broker, whether you are a trucking company, whether you are a dispatching company. Okay, so E-Carrier Check, very good.
Yeah.
Thanks, Charles. And just to add to that, I really appreciate that shout out for sure. We do demos 3 times a week, so we're definitely here to help you and give you that support to get familiar with the website, the industry, whatever it may be. So definitely appreciate that, Charles.
Yeah. Anyway,
I love it.
Of giving value back. That's the ultimate goal. Our number one goal. Yes, we run a software company, but our number one goal is to help people grow their businesses. And whether you're a trucking company, a broker, or a dispatcher, we want to provide you with the next relationship that can truly change your business. We're all
you do it through your software sourcing company.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
So that's your venue. That's your avenue by which you provide value and you help people scale their business.
Yeah.
You do it through E-Carrier Check. We do it through Exodus Logistics Learning Center. And now what we've done, we've fused with each other, and we formed a network so that we're now giving value. So I don't know if the people listening in who are on the fence about getting into transportation is not going anywhere, right?
No.
But you have 2 resources right now that you're listening to that can probably give you some good pointers in this industry based off of our experience. Like, I used to be involved in every aspect of transportation. You name it, I was there. And Jared, freight broker, right? Outside sales. So we bumped our head, we skid our elbows and knees. We've done these things, right? We've been told no thousands of times. I can't even count on one. So, and if I don't know an answer to something, I have people that do. So, which is great. And that's how you build your company. That's how you scale your business. You develop a team, you network with people. And then once you start to have a conversation with people and you network with it, you feel their energy, and you only network with people who are going in the same direction as you.
Yeah.
Right. And that's not to sound like I'm negative about people who are not going in the same direction as me. But if I have a goal and I'm trying to get to that goal, and this goal is attainable in only one direction, Why am I going in the other direction? Right. So, and if I have people that I connect with that's going in the same direction, and we can help each other get there, then those are the people that I want to connect with. Positive energy,
Yep.
right? Communicate, patient people.
Yeah.
Enough said, right?
Yeah. Surround yourself with the people you want to get to. And if you want to be a millionaire, surround yourself with millionaires. If you want to be successful, you surround yourself with successful people. That's just how it is.
Yeah. So everywhere I go, I always got this saying, and I've heard it from, I can't remember who I heard it from, but if you walk into the room and you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room.
Yep.
Right. So I want to walk into the room where I'm learning something from someone.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah,
definitely.
I love that.
A lot of positivity.
Yeah, Charles, you really, I mean, honestly, you bring the paint. You drive hard in the paint, brother. And I appreciate being on. I love you being on. I honestly, I need to go and hang out with you. I love your energy. Yeah, I love your energy. I love everything that you do and everything that you bring to the table. You know, any final closing thoughts before we finish up today's show?
Sure. So first of all, thank you for having me. And anytime you want me to come on to provide any dispatching or freight brokering information, advice, updates, just let me know. Nate, send me an email, Jared. But for those of you who are listening, thank you for taking the time to join this live here and to maybe something that was said that may have helped you in your decision to come into the industry. Maybe it was something that was said to help you decide if you want to take advantage of eCarrier Check or enroll into the Exodus Logistics Learning Center's Dispatcher 101. If that's the case, then we look forward to you joining, right? Those of you who are listening, just be patient, communicate, persevere, have some integrity, and you should go far. Now, these are universal points, right? It doesn't matter what race you are, what religion, what spirituality, wherever walk of life you come from. Yeah. The universal concepts applies. Those universal concepts are blind. They can care less what race you are, what color you are, what religion you go by, right? They're blind. They're universal. Everyone can take a universal concept and apply it in their life and be successful. So communicate, honesty, integrity, patience, and perseverance. So someone just asked, please go over 5 tips one more time. Communicate, honesty, integrity, patience, and perseverance. So those are the 5 tips that Jared and Nate had asked me to discuss 5 tips for dispatchers, right? So not only dispatchers, but in life for just human beings in general, right? So, but this is the transportation industry. $1.7 trillion, I believe, as of last week, a year, across 4 or 5 modes, trucking, pipeline, rail, air, and vessels, sea. Those are the modes of transportation, right? So, and then the trucking alone is close to 800 billion, if it's not over 800 billion. So there's money in it. So people say we're in a downturn, the market is, and that's true. The market is going down and fuel prices are going up. So there's an issue there, but there's still ways to make money, right? There's still ways. You are still in one of the best industries to be in. This in real estate, perhaps, one of the best industries to be in, because even in economic downturns, in disease societies like COVID and things like that, it's pandemic proof, it's recession proof. Dare I say it's idiot proof. So, but you can make money. You just got to be able to structure it. Take your human element and your human skill set, get into the transportation industry, and learn the ways of the transportation industry in order to scale and prosper your business. Now, the easiest entry point, in my opinion, into this industry is as an independent freight dispatcher, because there's less overhead. You're not required to have an authority. You can just get a business license and start up, and then convince an owner operator. I don't want to say convince, I guess is a bad word, because it sounds like you're trying to trick them, but get a carrier willing to have you be their dispatcher. However way you do that, whether it's cold call, visit a truck stop, email campaign, social media, text campaigns, whatever, right? So, all right. So I'm gonna jump off the soapbox and give it back to you guys.
I appreciate you, Charles.
Charles, you're pledge this morning was really appreciated. We're
Yep.
super excited about that. As we continue to, those people that just came in, obviously a part of subscriptions that are on eCarrier Check will be going back to a nonprofit here called Festival of Hope, where they help families and those people that are going through cancer, and just impact some people that need help at a time that they need help.
And
So
it's breast cancer specifically, right? The breast cancer.
it is. Yep. It is breast cancer specifically.
So if those of you who are listening also, if you have a heart, what I want to say I don't want to insult anyone, but we all have mothers, right? We all have mothers, and we love. My mother's deceased. She passed away in July 4th, 2020, and of COVID and pneumonia. But breast cancer is very important. We all love our mothers. You only get one, right? So this is an important cause, right? And I was not aware that Jared was going to mention this when he first introduced it. But I have a wife, and she's getting checked as well. And so all the wives and girlfriends and mothers. So if there's individuals who feel that that's important for you, and you want to contribute, there's not a set amount. You can just give what your heart desire, right?
Yeah.
And everything adds up. Pennies add up to dollars.
Yep.
Dollars adds up to thousands of dollars, right? So
yeah,
and that's my amount.
And it's definitely one of those things we're just taking part of your subscription and moving that money over to Festival of Hope, and so we're super excited about that. Nate, last closing thoughts. How do people get in touch with you? Boy, you're an intricate part of our company and what we do. So thank you for your efforts. But Nate, how do people get in touch with you? How do people see the site and those aspects?
Yeah, go ahead and just visit ecarriercheck.com. We're basically, on every social media platform, so you'll be able to see us. But we have demos 3 times a week. Our phone number, emails up there if you have any questions. And then just a big thank you to our community and Charles' community as well. We're meshing really well together. I see a lot of people from your community come. Q was with me this week. She's awesome. Thank you for being here. So really good community. We wouldn't be here without everyone. So appreciate you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
KEE Joseph asked a question. We're actually going to be talking more about that here next week. And so we'll get into what to say to shippers when they deny your bid. So that's an interesting point. Stay tuned for next week's show as we continue to talk about that. Charles, have an awesome weekend. Thank you for just bringing it to the house today. And we'll talk later, okay?
All right, guys. Thank you for your time. Thanks, everyone.